What's up guys, welcome back to the VY Stroker build. Today we're finally going to be actually getting the motor and box into this thing. So it's been a while waiting for parts, getting things together to make this happen, and as I said in the last video, Rex is currently doing night shift on a shutdown pretty locally here, so it's just me through the day. But I'm finally at the point now where I can actually get the motor and box in this thing so that we can start doing a few more critical measurements. Like I said, making sure that the intake manifold here is actually going to fit under the bonnet, getting our measurement for our tail shaft, and continuing to move forward with this build. So yeah, today's going to be all about getting the motor and box in, so let's see how we go. So as you saw from the last episode, our engine is ready to rumble. I noticed yesterday when I was putting this on that we had a real issue with the actual throttle. Friggin' the butterfly, I don't even know what you call this particular part, but the cable, there was nowhere to mount a bracket for the cable. The manifold doesn't come with any provisions to have a bracket, and the way, when this was flipped over the other way, when it was right way up, as it was come back, that cam would actually touch the manifold here, which was a real problem. So I tried flipping it over, but it presents its own issues flipping it over as well. Firstly, pretty much it's going to be pointing, the cable that's got to come off here pretty much points directly at this runner. The throttle bracket for how long the cable is has to be about here. So we'd have to do some sort of weird rolling guide for the cable, and then even then I don't even know if the cable will reach over this side of the manifold because it's designed to be on the driver's side there. So got a lot of issues to sort out with this manifold and throttle body setup. As me and Rex were talking this morning in passing, we really don't think we'd use one of these manifolds ever again. Was never our really first preference. This was what the customer wanted. So personally, if I wanted to go something like this, I'd just go with a Holly high rise or something like that. But he was led to believe that this would work well and still fit under the bonnet, etc. So that's why we've got it here. Anyway, we've got some issues to sort out with that. We're going to be using L98 injectors, so some decent sort of fueling for this thing. We've just ordered some the little half extensions for the little half size injectors in the L98 so that it fits the rails that come with the manifold. That's going to work out alright, we've figured that out, that's all good. But anyway, regardless, once this is in the car, we've got a bit of sorting out to do with the throttle body. So we've got here our RTS flex plate to suit the Turbo 400, or 4L60, they're pretty much very similar anyway. It comes with a little collar here. This is to actually adapt the Turbo 400 torque converter to the crank of the LS, so that works out pretty well. First things first, I'm going to pull this condenser out. I spoke about it in the last episode about how we would like to put another condenser in here, one that's in a bit better condition. I've gone for a walk this morning. We've got a WH Statesman down there, which the condenser appears to be exactly the same and it's in much better condition. So I'm going to pull this condenser out so that's out of the way for my install of this engine. And then when it comes time, we'll put the other condenser in and it should be a much better unit. So that's about all that I had to talk to you about this morning, so let's go, let's get this in here. Alright guys, we've got an engine and gearbox. That went really well, considering I was on my own. Couldn't ask for it to go much better. So, pretty stoked with that, nothing went wrong. Just was patient, and slow and thorough, and everything was alright. So the Rod Shop T400 mount fits fine, bolted up perfect, that's awesome. I've left the converter bolts out for now as well, for the same reason. It's very hard to do on your own. It's really hard to hold the crank and try and get these torqued up on your own. So I figured I'll wait for Rex to get up. I'll see how I feel after lunch. If I'm feeling well enough, I will do it anyway. But yeah, it's just a lot easier with two people. So for those of you who have recently tuned in or missed it before, this is a 500 horsepower rated turbo 400 built by Danny there at Lunatech in Gympie. So big thanks to Danny there, Lunatech T400, to go with this 383 stroker. So pretty much at this point now, it's just a matter of starting to mosey around and start connecting up wiring and, you know, everything else that goes with this sort of thing. I've got to go down and get the other condenser out of the other car, as I was talking about before. That there, so I'll do that maybe this afternoon, but it's nice to have it at this point. Another thing I have to look at now as well is I've got to get this old shifter arm out because we've got our Muscle Garage shifter plate to go on there with our TCI, our B&M Magnum Grip shifter. So this has got to go, we no longer need that. So I've got to try and get that out, but I've got to get up inside and pull a lot of the interior out of that tunnel and have a look at what's there and get rid of that. But anyway, nice bit of progress to have on this thing. It's nice to have this off the floor out of the way and the engine in a car, not on the engine stand. Frees up another engine stand, frees up some more room in the engine room, and we can continue going with a few of the other builds we've got on the go. Not to mention we can now get a tail shaft length from our Turbo 400 back to our 9-inch here. So we can start getting the rest of this build together and get this thing happening. Anyway, I'm gonna have some lunch and then I'll try and decide what I'm gonna continue on doing with this thing. Alright, so to be fair, I don't like how this is looking for bonnet clearance. I don't reckon that's gonna clear personally. Anyway, when Rex gets up, I'll get him to give me a hand with the bonnet. We might put it on and have a look. Well, it is what it is. So I went to start putting the loom back in, but we've actually still got to change all the injector plugs and do a few other things on the loom. So it's not really any advantage to actually get it in now because it's going to be easier to modify. We've got to modify while it's all accessible there. So I'm going to flag that for the moment. So one thing I can go on with is this old setup had, you can see over there, they're just like HSV headers. Now they're not a bad thing. The old HSV headers, we've actually had some pretty good results out of this. These things just on sort of cams, LS1s and that sort of thing. But for what this car is and for what it's earmarked to be in future, supercharged, we really do want some bigger primaries. So we've actually got a set of Pacemaker 4-in-1s out in the container, which I'm going to drag out. We're going to sell to Matt, who owns this car. And so I can probably drag them out and clean them up and give them a paint. That's something I can definitely do. And that way we can get them in at some point fairly soon. Alright, so I really hate this part of everything we do here. But that's like a quick wire brush to get most of the scale stuff off, and then a sand with some pretty savage paper. And then a clean up, and I'll let them dry, and then we'll kit them with some thinners and brake cleaner or whatever, and then we'll lay some paint down on them. But yeah, I hate doing this. It frickin' sucks. But as you saw when we did the parts for the VE, A little goes a long way when you're doing something like this, particularly with, you know, the way everything else in this engine bay looks at this ute. It makes all the difference having some nice freshly painted pipes. So it's definitely worth doing. I just freaking hate doing it. It sucks. But anyway, that's the worst of it done. So just let them dry out for a bit and then we'll get them back onto the paint saw horses and lay down some paint. So we're just going to be painting them the same as we did for the VE, that high temperature cast iron. It's a really good looking colour in the engine bay, so that'll do for these things. Alright, see how much difference that makes? They just look a million times better. Much better. So to get this driver's side one in, you actually have to take the steering intermediate shaft out, obviously, get the pipe in and then put it back in. But this is our pacemaker 4-into-1s. So even though this isn't like a budget build, the owner has sort of exhausted all the budget he had set aside for this thing. Since he dropped it off and the plan was to supercharge it and everything else, his circumstances have actually changed quite a bit, which was unforeseen. So we're trying to, at this stage, we're sort of trying to save him whatever money we can. That's why we're selling him those pacemakers that we have left over. Realistically, not sure whether we would ever use them anyway, so we thought it was a good opportunity to sell them to him. That way he saves some money. We get a little money back for stuff we've got lying around, which we've got lots of. And then after that, we're actually going to build him a exhaust system as well in exchange for his old 4L60, and it had quite a big stall converter and stuff like that. A few other things that he is not going to use from this build. We thought we'd cut him a deal and we'll trade him, because we do have plans for that, which I'll get to another video. But we'll trade him those for making a new exhaust. That way he gets his exhaust for next to nothing, really. So works out pretty well for all involved, and it gets us the exhaust we need to really get the full potential out of this combo, as well as it should be very sufficient for when this thing, if it ever does get supercharged, gets supercharged. So that's the idea. So do our best to make it look brand new, like the rest of everything in here. So we'll replace all this, and the rest of it's still in here. So that'll be going. Anyway guys, that's a nice little stack of progress on this car today. It's been nice to get that sort of knocked over, especially on my own. Really good to get that stuff off the floor and into the car finally. So that's going to be it for this episode. I've got a fair bit of stuff to figure out with inside in the actual interior, mounting this shifter plate, and then actually working out our linkage for the cable and everything else. So there's going to be a fair bit of just mucking around trying to sort that out. So I won't film the whole process because that's going to be pretty boring, but I'll just make sure I'll go through it thoroughly once it's finished, so that anyone who's looking at doing a turbo 400 conversion on something like this, you sort of know exactly what you're in for and where to go with it. So that's going to be it for now. I'll let those pipes go off. I'll probably chuck them in next time out here, which won't be tomorrow, the next day. But next episode, we'll get the pipes in. We'll try and sort out the shifter and the shifter plate and everything. That's another step closer. So this thing's moving along, which is awesome. Really good. I've actually noticed, just looking at where I was just pointing out, that you actually have to take the intermediate steering shaft out to get that pipe in. The Turbo 400 actually has a bit of a wing off the box, which is very different to the 4L60. So to me, it looks like that wing is definitely going to be in the way. So we may have a little bit of something to look at as a problem to overcome there. So anyway, we'll look into it, see what we can do, but we'll go through that on the next episode. So thank you for watching. As always, hope you're enjoying the build. I'm certainly having a lot of fun building this car. I think it's going to be sweet. So don't forget, we've got some new merch out on the website. Head to the website, buy yourself something nice. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out. See you. Bye.